Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So massive shout out, thanks, and appreciation to Guns of Navarone RMP, Troy Shuker, Justin Duso, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, Owen Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So a massive, huge thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Also a massive thank you to all of you who have supported my GoFundMe campaign. So big shout out to all of you who have smashed that, including Alexander, Kevin, Jeff, Jesse, Guns of Navarone, RMP, who accidentally donated anonymously, Hannah Koala, Chris Berry, Rob Hunston, Jamal Hicks, and Abraham Mohammed. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting my rather slow burning, I'm not going to lie, GoFundMe campaign. I think it's probably because I haven't done like a dedicated live stream to this particular GoFundMe. I just did a short explanation of what the treatment was and then haven't done a GoFundMe-a-thon for this particular event. But hopefully it'll round out in the not too distant future. That said, I have actually asked my wife to order a couple of pieces, so hopefully they'll come in the next week or two, as they are hand built by the company that I buy them from, which is GIK Acoustics, and they'll be coming hopefully in the not too distant future. So please support my GoFundMe campaign. In the meantime, I'll hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Had to do with Mr. Sensible, though, was the one that the cop pulled over this driver. He was a professional TV stunt driver, I guess, and they had an argument just because he asked a question. Ego trip on the cop's side, it looked like.
I didn't see it. You'll have to give me more detail.
It's a Master B. He just put it up. It's under the label Facebook. So this guy's driving in South Africa. He gets pulled over, and he's calm, the driver, and the cop is just going crazy, just asking him, "Why are you asking me a question? How dare you ask me a question?" He says, "Why can't I ask you a question? Why did you pull me over?" He doesn't know why he's being pulled over. It's just comical.
Unrelated, I take it, just amusing.
Yeah. It's just the fact that an authority figure can pull you over, and then you say, "Hello, can I ask why you pulled me over?" And then the guy goes nuts. What?
Hey guys,
Hey, good morning.
I'm new to this flat Earth thing. I have a question, if you mind, don't mind.
Go ahead.
So, why does the southern hemisphere side spin the opposite of the northern one? The stars, constellations.
Hang on. Right away, I'm new to someone begging the question of saying that we're on a globe and there's a southern hemisphere. How do you know there's a southern hemisphere? How do you know we're on a sphere?
I just mean when you're in Australia, you see the stars going one way, and then when you're in the north, it's going the other way, right?
Have you turned around? Do you decide to turn around and look at the stars? When you make a 180 turn, it goes the other way. Left to right, right to left. Just turn around. You make it go either way you want.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Can I try?
Mm-hmm.
What way do the stars travel from your location?
East. Oh wait, I'm in the north, right? So they go west to east, right? Or the other way? Can't remember.
You're asking us a star-related question. You don't know what direction the stars travel.
I think it's west to east from my like anti-clockwise.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I think it's anti-clockwise from my location.
Anti-clockwise is relative.
Relative?
Yeah. If you've got a transparent clock and you stand one side of it and look at the way it travels, and then you stand the other side of it, it's going to be the other way, isn't it? When you look at it from the other side. So it's relative to your position, clockwise, anti-clockwise. It's meaningless. Which way do they travel? West to east or east to west? Do you not know?
Sorry?
Do you not know which way the stars move? You're asking us questions about the stars and you don't know which way they move.
No, but I'm saying like they go the opposite directions.
Yeah, I know what your question is. What when we're trying to ascertain is what is opposite. Do you know what opposite means? Right, opposite to what? Clockwise, anti-clockwise is relative to which way you're facing. Now we're saying, do you know which way the stars actually move? And it seems you don't.
Actually move? No.
Yeah. From your position, which way do the stars go? It's a really simple question. You'd think you'd actually have looked at them, given you're asking us about them.
You're going from east to west, right?
From your position, east to west. What about in Australia?
I guess it would be the opposite.
You guess it would be the opposite.
No.
So you think that the stars rise in the west in Australia? Really? Is that what you think? My God, you're stupid. Have you ever been to Australia and seen these rising in the west stars?
Sorry, I'm new to the...
Yeah, I can tell.
So I'm just
Why are you asking us about stars that move west to east in Australia? I don't get it. You obviously haven't got the vaguest clue what the stars do. That's the first problem dealt with. You don't know what the stars are doing. Yeah, you don't know what they're doing. So you're asking us about them. You don't even know which way they move. Right? The second problem is you've assumed that Australia's antipodal from your presumably northern position. Why would you assume that travelling in a southward direction that would be pointing in the direction of south on a compass out towards the horizon would leave you antipodal on a sphere? Why would you make that assumption?
Did I make that assumption?
Yeah, you used the word hemisphere and asked us about what's happening at the bottom of a sphere travelling south. You then got a complete balls up about what the stars actually do, and now you're interrupting me. So I'm summarising what you've done. You haven't got a clue what the stars actually do or how they move. But you did definitely use the word hemisphere and ask us what's happening on the bottom of a sphere based on your assumption that travelling south leaves you antipodal on a sphere. That's a begging the question fallacy.
Okay, so what should I say? Hemi-flat or...?
It's not my example. Why are you asking me? Why are you asking me? It's your question. Why are you asking me what you should do? I don't know. What I do know is you begged the question with the word hemisphere. So you're assuming Australia is hanging off the bottom from your location. So that is the thing you're trying to prove with this question, right? It's flat or sphere. New to it, want to know whether or not it's your fundamental belief, which I absolutely know by now that you hold on to, that we're on a sphere, because you assume it by a word of hemisphere.
I didn't say we're in a sphere. I'm trying to understand why.
Hello. Listen closely. Listen closely. You said hemisphere. That means you absolutely, unequivocally, shut up. Listen, don't talk. When I tell you off for your assumption you've ignored 4 times, Tent's pointed it out, I've pointed it out 3 times. That's 4 total. You've assumed sphere with the word hemisphere. Do you notice the word fucking sphere in there? Hemisphere? You're telling me you're not assuming the word sphere with your hemispherical assumption? Yeah, you are. That's 5 times. Say, yes, I understand. I won't do it for a 6th. It's getting irritating, obviously. Yes, you did. Don't now say you didn't assume a sphere, you dick. Yes, you did. 5 times. How many times have we got to point out that hemisphere's got the word sphere in it?
Okay, I understand your point. I'm just saying the reason I said hemisphere was just to point out the north and south. Don't
tell me why you've done it. Don't assume sphere. We're here in a debate platform.
Okay.
You're asking us about your assumptions. Stop talking. I don't want a justification for you begging the question fallacy. You don't do that here. If you're new, you're learning fast, you're in at the deep end, you're being told off. You do not beg the question here. That's a logical fallacy. A flaw in logic. Don't justify your flaw in logic. Just say, yes, I understand my flaw in logic that I've utilised and then denied, having had it pointed out 6 times. Don't try and justify it. Just say, yes, I understand. I know I've been naughty and now I'm getting told off. Acknowledge what's happened. You begged the question. Simple.
Okay, so your answer to the question was that it's relative, right? Or something?
Sorry, I was talking to my wife about my coffee. Say it again.
Yeah, I understand that you. Why you don't like when we say hemisphere.
Are you switching to the stars now?
But sorry.
Are you? I gotta clear my throat.
That's a frog in 10th man's throat right there.
I said, are you switching to the stars now?
Switching?
Yeah, because we just got through talking about sphere, so we're done there. Thank you. Now you're talking about something that's above us, the stars. Are you making a change in direction in your conversation?
No, I'm not. I can hear myself. Well,
Restate your question.
Yeah. So, on the north side, right? On the south side.
Of what?
See the
north
stars.
Hang on.
Of the Earth.
So it's got a side now. What do you mean side? Side of a sphere, by chance? Are you assuming a sphere again when you say side? Is it just a Weasley way of saying hemisphere without saying it? What do you mean side? On the side of what?
I just mean position on Earth, right?
Oh, and is Earth in your assumption spherical?
No, it's just Earth.
Oh, so what does this prove then? So we're travelling south, looking up, and then we're moving north and looking up. This doesn't prove anything.
Trying to prove anything. I'm just.
Oh, right. Well, then shut up. What's your question got any relevance to this debate then? You're not trying to prove anything. Why are you asking about it then? So unless you assume, this is the point, try to pay attention. Unless you assume that this observation takes place on a sphere, it proves nothing. Absolutely nout. Do you understand that?
That's great.
Not great. It's a basis for your argument that you're putting forward here. I'm annihilating it. You're telling me that the annihilation based on your begging the question is great? No, unless you assume that which you're trying to prove. This doesn't prove anything. It just employs fallacy. So unless you assume your sphere, this is pointless nonsense that proves nothing.
The best thing he said was my position on Earth. If he can start from there, he's okay.
Yes. So my position on Earth, sorry, which I call north, right? When I say hemisphere, I don't mean Earth is sphere. I just mean.
Oh, you just mean that hemisphere means something other than a presupposed bottom of a sphere, bottom half.
Okay.
Half of it. You don't mean that, don't you? Yes, you do mean that. You stupid dick.
You had a chance until you said it again. Stop saying that word.
Stop chanting your fundy faith here, you bloody zealot. Stop chanting at us that you assume that you're moving towards the bottom of a spherical Earth you assume you're standing on. That's the very thing you're trying to prove, and that's my point. The only way you can even attempt to prove it is to assume it in the first instance. Is this not sinking in?
Start with a blank canvas. Your position on Earth. Now, what's your question?
All right. My position on Earth, right? I see the stars going in one direction.
And what direction is that?
East to west. We already established this, for love of God.
East to west.
Yes, thank you.
Right? I change my location and the stars appear.
No, they fucking don't, you dumb shit. They still go in the exact same direction, save for Polaris, regardless of where you are.
Here.
Stupid idiot. Shut up. Open your ears, you stupid idiot. They all move in the same direction, regardless of where you are. Do you understand? They all rise in the east and set in the west. Always, except for Polaris. Do you understand?
Yeah, sure.
Well, why are you asking us about them moving in different directions on the bottom of a presupposed spherical Earth, then? They don't! You stupid idiot! Stop interrupting me while I tell you off. Number one, you haven't got the vaguest clue what the stars do. Number 2, you're assuming a sphere and asking us about how things are possible on your presumed spherical surface with this word hemisphere that you on 7 occasions have denied is a presupposition that you're asking about a presupposed spherical surface. You are, but you haven't got the clue what the stars actually do. And you're now going to go on to ask us why they're different in the south. They're not. They're moving in the same direction, you complete clown. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand that there's...
So shut up! They're moving in the same direction. Don't ask us for a third time why they're moving in different directions. They're not! You complete idiot! Do you feel humiliated? Do you feel thick? Why are you asking about this? Go and look at the stars. Just tilt your head upwards before you come on a debate show and ask flat earthers about how they move. You've not even glanced upwards. You stupid idiot. You enrage me. How dare you come here and ask me questions? Simply tilt your head up before you do. It's an insult to us. Go away and do some research, you pathetic moron. Don't come here asking me to tell you what's what. Go and look for yourself, you ignorant moron. Start by looking up at the stars when it's dark. Maybe get a compass out while you do. You stupid idiot. How dare you question us? Get lost, you moron. Don't open your mouth again. You don't deserve to ask us anything. You're an idiot. Globe-believing retard like all of them. Think you've got the nerve to come here and ask us questions when you've not even looked up at the sky? What an absolute offence to us.
I'm just curious, that's all.
So look up! And come here on a flat earth debate show and start quizzing us. Just simply glance up with a compass in your hand, you dick.
Alright, thanks for...
Yeah, now fuck off. Don't thank me, just fuck off. Maybe look up at the sky, you stupid, ignorant, idiot, globe-believing moron. This is what you get here. Come here and quiz us on what the stars do with a fundamentalist religious belief that you're antipodal when in the south, and that they move in different directions, demonstrating abject stupidity. You think that deserves our time? You bunch of idiot globe-believing fundies. You just need telling, don't you? Well, I'm more than content to tell you. Yet with the most disdain I can muster on a morning for you and an afternoon for me, I will berate you and tell you, because that's what you're coming here for. You're not looking up, you're not grabbing a compass, you're not figuring out which way they move. You want to be told. Well, I'll tell you. And embarrass you while I do it, and berate you while I do it, and make everybody acutely aware just how stupid you are as I tell you.
Well, I think my senses are telling me he was acting the whole time.
No, he's just a normal globe-believing fundy who's stumbled across this subject and goes to the back of his brain for how the stars move, or maybe glances at a TV show and then expresses his fundamentalist zealotry about how we're antipodal and how we should explain that on a flat plane, or why it's moving the other way when it isn't. Just complete lack of understanding of anything in his physical environment.
Well, that's what I'm saying. His voice told me he wasn't too young, so he knows his physical environment. So maybe I'm 90-10. 10% I could be wrong, but 90% I think he was just here just to trigger you.
You want to know why I'm in such a bad mood, right? Yesterday evening, just before going to bed, after having a couple of nice slices of tiger bread, I turned the loaf over because it was at the last piece, slipped and went right through my finger to the bone, and then went into my wife with my finger spurting blood absolutely everywhere, so the place is now covered in blood. I'm like, shit, I've nearly cut my finger off. And I know full well that I'm slowly seeping into shock because it was the most excruciating thing I've ever felt in my life, going through my fingertip to the bone. So I'm in abject pain going, I'm going to go into shock any second, you need to do something. So she's like, go into the lounge. And then I woke up on the floor a couple of minutes later with her bandaging my finger, going, oh my God, this is euphoric. This feels wonderful. Knowing that only moments earlier I was in excruciating pain. So I went into shock. Wife bandaged me up. She got me somehow into bed because I'm quite big. I don't know how she managed it. And then I woke up in the morning And I'm in excruciating pain. My finger is killing me. I'm laughing, but it isn't funny in the slightest.
Well, I got a smile and a giggle myself because November, my left thumb just didn't want to stay on my finger. I had a razor go through sideways on it, which was pretty deep. So then later in the month, an axe hit a knot in the wood and went careening sideways. My arm's totally away from the cutting area, and it was a brand new axe, and it went right through, hit the bone, almost cut my whole thumb off, hit the bone. I got the scar. I'll send you a picture of it. All on one finger. And I come into my wife and I go, "What's going on here? It's November. My thumb doesn't want to stay on my finger. And now you got December. So hopefully there's no second one for you." Stay away from knives.
Well, I think I smacked my nose. So I woke up and I'm like, blew my nose and there's all this blood come out. And I'm like, oh God, I must have whacked my nose on something when I fell over.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I got 2 nice scars on one finger all in 1 month within 10 days, I think.
Good morning. I didn't want to interrupt that extreme beating you gave that dude.
He didn't
want to
deserve
cut
it.
in?
He didn't deserve it in the slightest. But I'm just justifying my pain, expressing it through anger and rage.
Okay.
But I think that's what I'm going to be dealing with this new guy I'm working with, because he's already presupposing a ball and he's not understanding when I explain it to him. So I think I'm in for the same argument today.
Well, you better cut your finger before you do, so you can have just as much passion as Nathan did.
I can never do it like Nathan. Nathan's heartless.
No, Nathan went for the kill so early today. I'm saying, what's up with this? Is he just wanting that dramatic moment earlier than usual, or what?
It's a hungry lion.
No, it's a guy who sat up with a throbbing finger all night going, ow, ow, it hurts, like a big baby.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain. I had a popsicle stick under mine, just so I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was just throbbing, and then I went to pick up my youngest daughter, and then I was like, "Oh, why did I do that?"
Yeah. All right. Well, it's fast. It heals fast, so that's the good news.
That's where all the nerves are, right? That's where you've got the most precision is in your fingertips, isn't it? From all the nerves.
I mean, just touching like right now, if I hit, it's healed, and there's a line there from the scab going away. But if I touch it, it's still so sensitive.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so Mr. Sensible, I guess, did a video back to Flatzoid. I haven't watched it all. He posted it last night, and I'm gonna watch it later today, and then Flatzoid's gonna respond later. But he's got the ballers all triggered.
I'll probably watch his response video. I don't watch the originals these people release.
Yeah, the response, he'll cover it. It's only 22 minutes long. Well, that was interesting. The guy coming on, whether he was real or not, doesn't know which way the stars rise and set from his position on Earth. I wonder how he thinks the sun rises and sets.
Yeah, everyone wants to lay this 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth into the sun trap, right? Everyone's waiting with it under their belt just to bring it out. Brian did it the other day. Now, he brought it out, and he brought it out in a situation that I hadn't thought about, because do you remember I showed a website that Dearth had put me in contact with, so to speak? Well, Brian was quick to say, right, well, it's also a Coriolis claim. And I'm like, right, I hadn't spotted that angle. Genius. That said, the whole time, I'm not necessarily verbalizing it because I want to keep it under my belt and spring it on someone. So, no, not turning underneath. No, definitely not 15 degrees now. No, turning together. All right, so the sun isn't turning underneath. We're not turning underneath the sun to cause it to move then. And just watch them fall to pieces and double speak their way around that 15 degrees an hour drift that's absolutely, without doubt, claimed to be Earth turning underneath.
Yeah, it's a problem when you say lockstep. Somehow you lock the sun.
Oh, right, so the sun moves with the Earth, does it? Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you born on this earth and people let you be a kid and play outdoors and everything else, and later you get up and learn languages, and they say, "What do you think the nature of your earth is?" And it says, "Oh, it's wonderful. Do you think you live on a ball?" What makes you think that? Water doesn't bend on a ball. What makes you think I live on a ball? I mean, unless they put it in you and put it in the textbooks, in orthographic view, Muppet Vision, and in movies, and constantly tell you they violated the second law of thermodynamics and went to outer space, not space, but outer space, where there's a vacuum, and took images, CGI as we know, not photographs, you would never even think those thoughts.
No, agreed. It's the extraordinary claim, and they've managed to indoctrinate it so deeply into people that it stops being an extraordinary claim they need to prove and becomes our belief if we don't accept it. Very clever. Very, very clever.
It is indeed, because they have it's like current events with the media spinning only one side of the story, and social media and other things not allowing as well as the media the other side to be heard. So you're just hearing one side, hearing one side, hearing one side. So generations come and go, and you trust your parents more than anybody. So your parents say they live on the globe because they only saw that coming at them, and then that child uh, prodigies two, three more generations, and each set of those parents tell their kids, "Hey, Daddy, do we live on the ball?" "Well, of course we live on the ball. My daddy had bought a globe for me when I was a kid." And that's how the extraordinary claim gets going, because they use your parents against you.
No, but I got one that's been presented to me. And you know how you can't use God or the Bible? Well, this guy said to me, "How do you know God didn't make it different up there?" Well, you can have gas pressure out of container.
Told you already, that's a
I,
special pleading fallacy.
Correct, but I find it funny because when you use scripture, they say, "Oh, you can't use God in a debate. We're talking science." But when it's convenient for them, they'll use it.
Yeah, but
Sounds
yeah.
like
So,
righteous forces
so
new argument that the heavens work differently up there.
yeah, special pleading.
well, there's one way to find out if the heavens work differently out there.
Well, there's that word, isn't it? Work. So figure out the physicality of it. That'd be in the realms of physics.
Well, yeah. We know that if it works that way up there in all of the arguments they want to give, we wouldn't have to see astronauts on wires. So I guess it doesn't work that way up there when it comes to this pseudo gravity that's not holding them up.
To your angle. So you're saying kind of a reverse of one of their arguments, but you're saying if it was the case that it was real up there, they wouldn't need to fake it.
That's right.
Well, yeah.
Why? What? The last time I took a green screen somewhere, when I could just be somewhere and set the camera up and show the background of where I am.
That's the reality they want people to be in. I've known this for years. Be immersed in what we're doing now. We're online. We're not in a pub talking about these things. We're not holding it in a town hall. We're online. We're immersed in a virtual reality. And that will only get thicker and deeper as time progresses, to the point where you're not necessarily interacting with anybody for anything. Your
That's what they
perceived
wanted.
I'm nearly there. I'm just spelling out these thoughts because it's been a while since I've discussed them. Your perceived reality can be limited quite considerably, and it is being limited right now. So what you think is your reality, this now isn't necessarily reality. Us talking to each other, we're real people. Yes, there's a million miles of fibre, but this isn't as I've just described. It's not in a town hall, it's not in a pub, we're not being overheard. It's contained, controllable, not real.
I agree. That's how they want. That's the only way they can spin everything on us. Because in reality, or work as you put it, actuality, physicality, physics, they can't get away with it.
No, so what you've got to do is take people away from the physical more and more and more. And then the more you take them away from the physical, the easier it is to manipulate what is considered to be the physical reality that they inhabit, if the majority of the time they're not inhabiting it.
And this is displayed by simple questions we ask that go unanswered or endless arguments. It's does water stay on the ball? That's a physical demonstration I could do. And people will say no, but we live on the ball. Away from reality.
No, but those balls have crevices, remember? The earth is full of deep crevices for the oceans to be in.
Right, but it's supposed to be turning as well, so when did it spill over?
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by, we've got a whole load of people who are all trying to join because they've decided to come while I'm in the intro. Let's just admit all of these people so I can actually introduce them. We are joined by 10th Man, Arwin, Chocolate Sane, Neil, Paul Hall, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning.
You.
Morning, good morning. I'm not going to plug this forever, so it might be the last couple of plugs over the next couple of days because I don't want it to spill into the weekend. But I have still got a GoFundMe campaign going, so if you do want to support my GoFundMe campaign, check it out. It is to treat this YouTube studio that I use to do this debate daily. I get my words around that little tongue twister. So check it out. It's a GoFundMe campaign called Finishing Off My YouTube Studio. So a link is in the live stream. Check it out. If nothing else, please share it. Please support it. Thank you very much to all who've done so already. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Not from Century City.
Not from anywhere. No height, no point, nowhere. It always was a mind experiment and a reification. It was never really there. They just wanted you to go with the idea that it was there. That's all.
Well said. I tried to get you to accept exactly that yesterday, and you were like, no. They want you to debate about how it works and stuff. Obviously, you've changed your mind. They just want you to believe. I agree entirely. Any evidence of axial rotation?
Well, if there would be a lot of deviation now, wouldn't there? Even though the Globers constantly argue that there shouldn't be. But no.
Is it? Sounds like the symptoms of a virus.
Yeah.
The arguing for there shouldn't be is just a symptom of the Coriolis virus. So obviously globe Earth claims there's 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth as stuff that is not attached drifts away from you as you turn underneath it on a 15 degrees an hour turning platform that's claimed to be a turning Earth. That's what Coriolis effect is. You turning underneath stuff, seeing it seem to drift. Well, the people who say no, we wouldn't expect to see it to drift, well, then you're in denial of the claim that the globe has, which is Coriolis deviation, that's drift. So that's the Coriolis virus. Manifest in these idiots.
I remember the day when Rumpus would still say, but we don't expect to see the geometric horizons.
We don't expect to see Earth turning. We wouldn't expect to see drift. Yeah, there's a lot of things they wouldn't expect to see that they actually claim. Weird, eh?
Yep.
Well, not just Coriolis. I think they used Earth axis for explaining the illuminated part of the moon, because the shadows don't make sense unless you have some sort of axis. So they've kind of tied that into with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all part of the axial rotation motion that they give you all of those different lights, shadows, everything. All based on Earth turning and us moving around the sun. It's all based around orbits, these presuppositions that rocks fall around one another. Any evidence the distance to the sun?
It's too cloudy to tell right now.
Not evidence of the sun. Clouds are.
But how can you even establish a distance if you can't even see it anymore? Whatever it is.
But even if you could, how would you establish a distance?
Well, you would have to start by at least seeing it first, and then you could see if that will lead to the next step in actually establishing a location which you require in order to have a distance to it.
Okay, but you're right. I can't argue. First, you've got to see it. Okay. Now, how do you get around the fact that it's an intangible, apparent object? As in, not actual, not physical, no actual size, can't get to it or touch it. How'd you get around that? You're going to run a tape measure to a not actual location?
Yeah. Well, I think that sort of people tried, and then they realized, damn, this is not working. Just keeps bending away. So, yeah. And after that point, yeah, what do? You can't really do anything. How do you catch a dragon that always is ahead of you, that you can never catch? Well, you can't catch it. So what do you do then? You give up. And what do you do with that lesson that you learned? Well, a lot of people then just start to reify it anyway. Like, it's always out of reach, but it has to be there because triangulation, blah, 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 blah. Or you could say, well, maybe there's just not sufficient physical evidence that it is actually a physical object, and therefore the only alternative is that it must be a light apparition and not really an object. And that was my conclusion.
Until it's confirmed or has any tangibility.
So in other words, no?
Correct. Or in other words, no, yes, chocolate. But just to make it clear, Alwyn's tolerated giving that explanation as much as he wants, because it's explaining that we're not just hand-waving it. It's not that we don't appreciate that people attempt to triangulate a non-physical, intangible object. We know. Flat Earthers do it too. We don't. We know how it's nonsense. But Alwyn's explanation is to justify a no as a non-hand wave. We're not just saying, oh, we just don't know, because we just don't know, but globeheads do. They assume R, and they assume Venus is the same R value, and they apply Kepler's third law. Well, no. Those assumptions don't give you a distance to the sun. They give you a load of assumptions. A justification for them we're not interested in. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, P waves and S waves would theoretically yield that proof if they could have ever been proven to be reliable in field tests.
Oh,
and they haven't been.
No, bummer.
So,
they haven't been.
No.
Shout out to Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, who did a little re-release video of exactly that, covering the molten iron core this morning. So check him out. A lot of you may be subscribed to him, as I did a big plug for him the other week. So yeah, if you are subscribed to him, check out his most recent video on the molten iron core. He just goes through it, shows the stats and data in exactly that regard. So big shout out to you, my friend. Love the video. Evidence of the R value, Earth radius.
Who is it that you said it?
Go on, Foe.
Okay.
Go, Foe, go. Globe virus, Foe? No?
What's that?
You want to add something?
I was asking, who is it you said that did the video?
Burn fat till my stomach is as flat as the earth.
Gotcha.
Is the YouTube videographer's channel name. I'm not joking.
Sounds good.
Burn fat till my stomach is as flat as the earth. Big shout out to you, my friend. You've got an extra long plug thanks to Globe Virus Foe. R value? Anybody at all?
I know him. He's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Burn fat's cool, man. He got a big shout out from me. Let's drag this out for 5 more minutes. R value? Anybody at all? Anybody got any evidence that there's a presupposed R value capable of being measured beyond P waves and S waves, which are totally unreliable? Got it wrong when they were going 12 miles deep.
Well,
12K.
According to Mr. Sensible and his mage balloon, at best we've disproven the radius. So after saying that, he then tries to reinforce that the horizon still is a geometric horizon with his supposed balloon by presupposing it once again, overlooking that he's basically conceded that we've at best disproven the radius in the first place. So I wonder how he even thinks that his new mage project is supposed to be resolving those issues in the past.
It isn't. Otherwise he'd be here presenting it, wouldn't he?
Right. But the trolls still keep on saying, "Oh, look at the maze. Are you scared of the mage?"
Scared of it? It's not been presented here once. If it was so terrifying, I'm sure they'd want to rub it right in our faces, right? But they know damn well that they'll get here, put a picture of a horizon on and go, look, it's bent. Or assume that it's physical in some way, and we'll just point out that it isn't. Or they'll tell us about how much gas pressure there is. And you'll go, oh, right, pressure then. That's how it'll end, right? And they know it. That's why it's never been presented. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, no, no. It's a reification fallacy. Conceptual medium-based mathematics that is quite impossible to even tie into the physical reality, and that's why Einstein originally never really attempted it. Said, no, just leave that to other people. He was just interested in the conceptual medium and the math, and the rest of the world thought that he had figured out this mysterious gravity, which never really existed, but always seemed to be pushed forward in, I guess, folklore, as things go down, go boom, boom, something like that. Yeah, until you actually learn how physics works, and then you realize that gravity is just a nonsense story for people that don't understand how actual physics work.
Any blowers want to
Still
tell us
catch me
their
by the
version of that story?
Ballers haven't showed up on this channel for a while.
I had one in this morning.
I'm not sure if he qualifies as the kind of trench level ballers I think Chocolate was referring
hang
to.
on a second. Just because someone's wandered into the trenches and presupposes their spherical sphere Earth belief doesn't mean that they're not in the trenches. They are. The fact that
Well,
they
they're
get
in
a bayonet in the face doesn't mean they're not in the trenches because they wandered in somehow. Don't care.
Yeah, they wandered in, but they haven't been in, and their names aren't familiar to me. So they're just wandered in, and then they get beat up.
For anyone who's wondering what we were referencing, you'll have to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member if you want to watch it today, or it'll be released tomorrow on my second channel, which is Nathan Oakley, link below, on the Uncut and After Show. So, for reasons I'm not going to detail again, I was very, very, very angry with the guy. Not really his fault, to be fair to him, but he got a strip tour off him nonetheless for coming in and presupposing a sphere Earth and then denying that he was actually begging the question on 7 occasions, which was very annoying on the best of days. Not today isn't one of my best of days, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
You wouldn't expect to have any reliable hypotheses from those fields. Why do you expect us to have any?
Because they've got plenty of phenomena to study, and they assert causal relationships with the phenomena that they study.
But every time we ask them,
but without empirical, valid scientific experimentation based on hypotheses, it's just pseudoscience stories, and made up just so stories aren't really science. In fact, they're not science at all. But they've definitely got phenomena to study. They could definitely be formulating hypotheses.
Yeah, but 2020's been the year of you wouldn't expect us to have, or you wouldn't expect us to see. You wouldn't expect it to be. So that's just 2020 for the ballers.
Yeah, a lot of you wouldn't expect our claims to pad out to fruition and demonstrate themselves in physicality. Yeah, we've had a lot of that in 2020, you're right.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect us to provide any evidence for our claims. What is this?
And why do you expect science to prove things? Even though we've been throwing at you guys that the body of science for years has proven that we live on a globe, but now, why do you expect science to prove stuff? Science doesn't prove anything.
Loosely translated, science absolutely, empirically validates cause and effect relationships through experimentation. They've claimed they have science, and they don't. They've only got pseudoscience, which is just so stories that can be adapted and changed at any time they like. Why would you expect pseudoscience to prove things, is what they actually mean, because they've claimed science when they haven't got any.
Yep.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No.
No.
That's impossible. How could you even conceive of trying to demonstrate that when you cannot be without a container? Because existence as we know it is in a container.
Yeah, it has to be. We must have containment or we wouldn't have the gas pressure we all enjoy breathing. Big shout out to James Richards, who says, "We have been lied to. I wonder why globies cannot understand. It is easier to fool a man than convince them that they have been fooled. Globies cannot tell they have been fooled even after calling it out for 4 to 5 years." Wow. Absolutely could not agree with you more, James Richard, and thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Yeah, it's much easier to lie to somebody than to convince them they've been lied to. Nobody likes to be proven a fool. Is that the last housekeeping question?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that concludes the housekeeping.
That was quick.
Where are we? 17 minutes. Yeah, relatively quick. Missing dulcet tones of Flatzoid. It misses a bit of South African flavour when he's not here. I do miss him.
Yeah, me too. But he has like a really bad internet connection, right? So he just can't get a good connection.
He's working when he does this. He's normally got compressor noise and stuff.
Yeah, it's those darn satellites that ain't working with the internet connection.
But it doesn't mean that he's not on the internet at all. He's still in chat and he still makes videos. He just can't have a proper live connection. It would be too much delay and all that, I think.
Yeah, he's often a bit laggy. I checked out the first little bit of... I was about to mispronounce him. Just Phil Bell. So I woke up to a message from Chocolate saying, which did cheer me up considering how much pain I was in. And it said words to the effect of, "Here's the video of Prof. Phil Bell being passed around like a blunt." Yeah, it's just he was torn pillar to post, wasn't he, like a rag doll? Being flat earthers pointing out his nonsense every step of the way. It was really good.
Yeah, he basically stumbled into a lion's den. Thought he was about to tame somebody. Realized real quick that wasn't going to happen.
I mean, credit to where credit's due, though. I mean, he stood his ground. That's the only positive thing I can commend him for, really.
You know what, guys? I just realized something. Well, it's very basic, so it's like blatantly obvious, but it's just another piece. This whole thing about we need to get the flat earthers to trust us better. Remember that thing?
Yeah.
From the ballers and NASA? Like, that's like really telling, right? We know what that means. It's like, yeah, because they need to get away again with the stories and not get questions, right? Well, it's actually perfect projection because they just need to trust us so they can actually listen to what we're saying and then let it sink in. So their problems systematically of their entire religion is that they distrust us so to the core, so utterly, to a deep level, that they literally can't even hear what we're saying anymore when we're making an argument. So their problem is that they can't trust us.
But there's no trust required when you point out flaws in logic and failures to comply with scientific method. Those things, it's not up for debate in that regard. Those are just matters of fact. They need to trust us when we point out there's no evidence.
But in a communication, if you're standing right in front of somebody and you're like afraid he's going to kill you any second, then you're not really going to pay attention much to what he's saying. You're just going to be like, paying attention that he keeps enough distance and all that. See, so he's not listening anymore. That's what I mean. You have to have a trust that you can just have a proper intellectual conversation in order to listen to the other.
Yes, I agree. At a fundamental level, they just distrust us as being kooky or whatever their excuse is. But I think at a deeper level, like I was trying to say to you yesterday, it doesn't matter if you can pull apart the reasoning or the behavior of a narcissistic abuser. All they want to know is that you trust them. Because then when the next story comes along, they know already that you're going to trust and believe the story. So you trying to explain why the story's wrong is irrelevant. Immediately, you're just a useless... what's the narcissist's term for this? Just give me a couple of seconds. I'm gonna get it. They call it like a tool or a device or a source of narcissistic an appliance, like an appliance, right? You want to know that appliance in this instance, analogous to somebody who's being abused, they're the appliance. Well, the abuser just wants to know that when they go up to the appliance, they turn it on and it just works. Now, do they want the appliance to say, what you're doing is wrong? It doesn't work because blah, blah, blah. No, they just want the blender to turn on and for it to mash food. And if it doesn't, they just chuck it out. Yeah, so the trust is the analogous to the physical manifestation of a blade spinning in a blender as a device. That's the person's trust just being implicit, just always, unquestioning. This is how it is. Okay, I understand. Yes, that's how it is. Now go forth and tell others. If anybody disagrees or questions it, they're untrustworthy. Because you need to trust me.
It's insanity that people would rather trust what they read in a book as opposed to trusting their own life experience and reality. That makes no sense to me at all.
The other thing is, if you point out to somebody, I was trying to explain this to my wife last night, if whatever is currently being punted that's a hoax, and I'm not going to specifically name anything, but just something that anybody who's in the realm of looking into, say, media and finding that they lie, that's a fairly PC, everyone's okay with me saying that on YouTube. Everybody at some level is aware that the media lie. Now, once you find that out, you've then got a choice. Do you accept, based on the lack of credibility after proving that they're liars, that anything they say is then takeable as, or can be taken as read? Just, it's true because I've read it. No, you can't. Immediately. But the same very people that will call out some lie in the media, you point out that there's plenty of other things that the exact same people are telling you that you take as read, and they go, oh yeah, but that's true. Because it is easier to lie to somebody than it is to prove that they've been lied. Now, even in this instance, if you prove to somebody at whatever level that something they've been told and they have taken as true isn't, they will still defend the narcissistic abuser when it comes to all other potential lies. And I'm saying that based on credibility once proven to be liars. All other lies are still true. Why? Well, because I've already accepted those and it'd mean I'd have to question them. Now, at some point, there are some people, like conspiracy cats, who will overtly express that. The fact that once you come across a situation where, if you were to accept that you've been lied to about the nature of your reality, the sky vacuum, Earth being a sphere, it opens up the possibility to huge numbers of other things being lies also. And they don't want to have to defend those. They want to accept them as well without having to question them. And questioning one thing logically implies that you've got to question it all. And who wants to do that? That's a very scary notion. Even more scary when you've got people like us going, yeah, and when you do, you're going to find out that that's all lies too. What a shock. Now, there's no shock to me. I already found out. I've got over it. But most people haven't got the slightest clue. And even if you do convince them of one lie, they're going to defend their narcissistic abuser to the nth degree because they've already accepted all the other lies and don't want to look into them. And that's the danger that the abuser faces when you have people who don't trust them, that question what they're telling them rather than simply accepting it. So when Arwin is like, well, I can show them how what they're doing is wrong or how it doesn't work or question how they might make it work, that's not the point. All that matters is that you trust the abuser.
This is why it's very difficult to get people to discuss this topic, because it has to come with some vulnerability. And they would rather accept the lies and not care and say, well, at the end, what does it matter? You know, stupid statements like that, because if they take a serious look at it, the vulnerable is more dangerous than the reality that you're talking, because it'll change everything. It's like the one domino piece that will knock all the rest down. They don't want to even get close to it.
It's scary.
If I could quote Morpheus real quick, the Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it.
Exactly.
What an amazing
all you gotta do is change the word matrix into the globe.
And remove the enemy
Absolutely.
part. It doesn't make them our enemy. You know, in the Matrix, they're physically fighting with them, so that makes sense contextually. Right. Here, they're not our enemy. They see us as their enemy, though. The Globers see us as the enemy. That's how they do view us.
You know, there's another word for that in the real world. You know what they're called? Conscripts. It's a Soviet term. It's the public. They're basically forced to be drafted to defend the system that enslaved them. And this one it's a psychological conscript. So they will psychologically defend their psychological enslavers. They don't know it because they're just unaware public. But that's effectively what it is.
Yeah, and the people who are abusing them with lies and deceit and mistruths need them to be complicit.
Right. The Soviets basically invented that system to psychologically enslave the public in order that they will, by their own psyche, defend their enslavers from outsiders that want to actually free them. It's a perfect analogy for the Matrix. It's basically Soviet Russia.
Well, a lot of it's
like
based
that.
on a philosophy. It's simulacra and simulation. And it even features in the movie. So somebody in the chat, I can't remember who, said, oh, it's just a movie. Well, yeah, it is just a movie, but it's based on philosophy. Now, are we saying we adhere to the philosophy? Well, no, but the psychopathic control grid that is the world we live in does. And it's being laid out for you in the Matrix, albeit via metaphor. Well, okay, yeah, it's just a movie. And you could say one step further down when I point out that it's based on a philosophy, that simulacra and simulation isn't real. No, it's not. It's just describing and detailing something as a philosophy. A bit like the globe.
Indeed.
I like talking about The Matrix. It's my favourite movie.
Mine too.
Heck yeah.
It's the best. I dressed myself after it.
That's what I wanted to say.
Dressed like...
seemed very fitting.
I was the
Right.
agent.
You were an agent.
Yep. I went to the premiere of the Revolution, the third one, and my friend was Neo. I was the agent. We did a fight scene in the lobby.
Oh wow,
was
very
beautiful.
cool. That's fun.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I have a weird story about that too. When I saw The Matrix 3 in the theaters, right after that, I had a very serious psychotic break when that happened.
You're surprising no
Because-
one.
Hmm?
Nothing.
Not surprising why it was, because I was so no, but yeah, I think it's very funny. For me, it was very painful. It's very serious because I was very shocked about how it all ended. That Neo kind of like died like that, and he had to, because he was so close to my heart in the previous two movies that I almost personified myself with it. And then to see that it would end up like that, that was too much for me to handle at that point.
Are you saying you suspend disbelief was an action right there?
No, I just was broken spiritually inside because the individual that I had used as an exemplary icon for my own self basically was pretty much virtually murdered to me. And that was so shocking that I literally could not handle it. I'm not saying that, oh, I went to a mental ward, but I literally did break inside.
Fair enough. Just going to do a quick shout out to Sacred Knowledge, aka Universe. If it was up to the machines, we'd all be on treadmills all day. But since we'd rebel and that wouldn't work, you would have the Matrix. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sacred Knowledge, aka Universe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that was
Armin, yeah.
2003, by the way, so that's 17 years ago.
What, Matrix 3?
Yes, I saw it in the movie theaters, and then that happened to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say, Armin. I saw it. It was just entertainment and a nice conversation afterwards of how they got that storyline, and does it fit in any of our reality at all, and are they doing this to people? But it didn't bother me, because guess what? Keanu Reeves was in another movie afterwards.
Yeah, but the Matrix
Right.
the Matrix is the
Well,
internet. The Matrix is a couple of things all rolled into one. The psychopathic control grid, as described by Thomas Sheridan, in terms of the cream that is psychopathic nature rising to the top of all society to control it and dictate the way the world runs. He calls that the psychopathic control grid. The internet, in terms of its fake nature, its false representations of reality, and its ability to force narratives upon you while you don't experience the real world, is also another element of what you could define as our Matrix. Well, these things are very much real. We very much experience them, very much are controlled by them, and they are definitely analogous to this world that they portray in a fictional location in the Matrix. It's just an analogy.
Right. The trick is not to try to make the spoon bend, but to realize it is you that is bending.
Yeah, and exactly. That analogy is perfect for the globe. There is no globe. It was all in your mind. Just a philosophy that you'd reified. The reification of the spoon. The reification of the model. There is no globe. What is real? Well, the bit that you made real in your mind. When you took a philosophy, a worldview, and made it the reality beneath your feet. There is no spoon. There is no globe. Same exact thing. It's just in your mind. World is flat.
Probably one of the best examples of a reification right there. There is no spoon, even though the guy's holding a spoon.
But he's not, because he's plugged into a Matrix
He's holding
network.
a spoon in the Matrix.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. But the equivalent is you watching Superman. That's you in the Matrix, part of the network, experiencing a reality that isn't real. There is no globe. There is no Superman flying around the globe, but the only bit you suspend disbelief with is Superman. The globe bit's taken as read because you've been pre-programmed to accept that as your reality. You've never had that vantage point. But yet there you are, looking at a spoon that doesn't exist. On the screen with Superman flying around the spoon. I mean globe.
Flying around the spoon.
There is no globe. That's the bottom line. It's merely a philosophy. The idea of people being antipodal from my location is ludicrous. It's only a way of conceptualizing the movement of the stars. Now, the fact that people have reified it into a current Western world religion seems to be a very recent event.
Even when I left the theater, from the first Matrix, I obviously I wasn't I think that came out in '99, so I wasn't a flat earther then, but it was one of the first movies that I could really say that actually, like, I kind of felt how Neo felt in the beginning of that movie. Like, there is something wrong with the world, and I'm not sure what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like how I felt. How, when he was in the Matrix, he had that green tint of the world, and everything was kind of just it was kind of like that.
Yes,
like,
I totally agree.
And then it went back to that, me raising my hand saying, hello, teacher, excuse me, how are people sticking to the bottom of this ball? It was kind of one of those things. It was just like an itch in the back of my mind, like Morpheus has.
Yeah, before Matrix coming out, I had exactly that semi-fantasy, if you will, that somehow you're going to get unplugged from this fakeness that you're presented with, that you don't quite realise what it is, and you can't know what you don't know already to know how it's wrong, or why it's wrong, or what it is that gives you the unnerving feeling. And that scene is echoed by the discussion in the nightclub between Trinity and Neo when she's explaining, do you ever get that feeling? Well, that's what you're describing, and I've felt it too, and many of us have.
Yep.
Definitely. When she was asking him that, I was sitting there like, yep.
Yeah, and
very wrong.
It's no coincidence that you've spent a lot of time on planes and, up in the air, and I have too. And it was those times that I was questioning it the most. Again, like you say, I have to disclaim I wasn't a flat earther, nor was I even thinking about it in that vein because of the way the programming was so clever. Looking back on it, you think, when I'm looking out of this plane window and saying, I wish I could go higher, I wish I could see the curve of the Earth while I'm looking at a horizon I'm reifying into a physical sphere edge, and contemplating just how flat it looks, especially when flying over land. I remember flying over Europe, or flying over Russia specifically, looking out the window, no sea beneath, and going, wow, it's so flat. But I'm not saying it in that way. And why aren't I saying it in that way? It's so clever that you're not even contemplating when you are contemplating it. How have they done that? It's just amazing. You've got to admire the indoctrination, right?
Yeah, because to me, I was like, instead of admiring how flat it is, I'm pissed off at how curved it's not.
Exactly.
Like, damn, I wish this plane could go higher so I could see the freaking curve.
That's exactly how I felt.
Like, oh shit, it's just flat.
Precisely. You'd be looking out going, I wish I could go higher. I wish I could see curve. I wish this plane would fly at 80,000. And you're like, you're not saying, what you're actually saying is, look how flat it looks.
Exactly. I had the same experience when I went, how old was I? I think just like 18 or something. I went with my uncle who does have a flying license into like a small time plane, and I was like, oh yeah, I can finally see how the Earth is a ball. And it's like, can't we go further up? It still looks, we look so close to the ground. Like, how big is the Earth?
Especially when you're taking off and you're on that angle, and that viewing angle of yours just opens up, and it's the land just keeps going and going and going, and you're just like, what the hell? Isn't it supposed to? When does it start doing what I see on television? When is it supposed to start doing that? Never.
Yeah, where's the transition phase where you suddenly see it's a ball?
Should be immediate. It should be immediate, right? We're supposed to be able to measure physical geometric sphere edge obstruction at the horizon from the ground according to the Earth curve mathematics. And the advanced calculations in the very same mathematics on Mick West's site show you how much you've got left to right curving. Now that would increase as you raise in altitude until it eventually went completely spherical as per their presentations from higher up in the fake medium. Well, therefore, the curve would be more and more predominant as you go up, and it is when they represent it in Google Earth. Go up in altitude and watch the horizon, a reified physical sphere-edge geometric horizon that isn't the horizon we see in reality, curving. Because it would. In other words, if the horizon was actually a physical sphere edge, number one, I think we'd have two of them, one based on the limitation of our optical view, and the other based on the physical actual sphere edge that's getting in the way of stuff in reality. But we don't. There is no physical geometric sphere edge horizon. It doesn't exist. It only exists in the maths. So therefore, if it was real, if we stood on a sphere, you'd rise in altitude and it'd get more and more bendy as you went up. Simple. Now, the fact that they take a curved lens and say, look, here's the horizon, a non-physical location, doing just that, it's like it doesn't change the fact that that isn't a physical horizon. And everything before it is getting further and further away as I increase my angle, and it all looks flat. Nothing's falling over any edge, ever. All the surveyors are measuring it and building on it flat. I don't get it. Why are we ever under this assumption? And when Chocolate and I, in this description, go up and look down on the ground beneath, you're not saying, wow, look how flat it is. You're saying, I wish I could see curve. How's that work?
Got us, man. That's how it works. They got us when we were little babies. When I was sitting in my crib with a solar system mobile over it, with my first mattress being something with space and rockets on it. I still remember that shit. Like futuristic space stations on my first mattress when I was like 4 or 5 or whatever.
Yep.
That's how they get you.
Space Lego, of course. Loads of it. Space Lego.
I still have my space Legos.
Exactly. Dear childhood toys, right? All of the time when you're impressionable and full of fantasy and you're playing with toys in a sky vacuum. It's cementing the idea.
Then you make a movie called Star Wars and you get them all hooked.
Yep. That's how it's done. The suspension of disbelief. You suspend disbelief that there's lasers going off and an actual battle in space, but the space bit, you don't suspend disbelief about. Or when you do, you don't realise it.
Right. And the funniest thing too is
all the cartoons I used to watch: Thundercats, Silverhawks, Voltron, G-Force, all of them. They're all
Captain
in
Planet.
Space.
Captain Planet.
Captain Planet, yeah.
They're all based on, yeah, you're right. How do they all begin?
That's like the religious appeal of it, though.
Oh, they're all based on religion. They've all got good versus evil. They've all got Christ character. But I'm just saying, aside from the religious connotations, which we'll put aside just for a minute, they've all got the same basic plot line, right? Somebody travels from one planet to another and it needs to be saving, or there's a battle taking place that they must take part in. Well, it's always an interplanetary story.
Exactly.
What's appealing to your hopes?
Cats
It's
had to
appealing
come
to
here
your
from Thundera. Transformers had to come here from Cybertron.
Hold on, Chocolate.
It's like,
hold on, Chocolate. Go ahead, Sin.
Sorry.
Well, like I remember, there's like the movie Toy Story. There's the Buzz Lightyear character. It's like to infinity beyond. The sky's the limit. Like that's what they're selling you is the appeal, your ambitions, your dreams, and it's all in the sky. It's I don't know if it's religious necessarily, but if they're getting you to put all your dreams and hopes of the future into the sky and space, that just sounds very cult religious.
Okay, I detect that Nick is being sarcastic in the chat when he says banana man, right? But no, fuck it, word. Banana man has Eric eat a banana, and then in the opening credits, Banana Man as an adult flies around the globe. In the opening credits.
I was very impressed by the cartoon Banana Man as a kid.
Me too, I love Banana Man.
I've never heard of that. That's new on me.
Gave me goosebumps every time the title played.
It's Superman that transforms to Superman by eating a banana. That's
exactly.
it.
When Eric eats a banana, he becomes Banana Man.
Wow.
Yeah, and the song was all very serious. It was so silly, but they presented it so serious. That was very appealing to me. Now, of course, looking at it back later, it looks so ridiculous. But
same goes for Super Ted. So Spotty comes from another planet, pours some magical alien crystals onto a teddy bear, and then they get Super Ted. So it's alien-based. All of them were.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That's so long. Wow. Super Ted. Oh my god, that's long ago. that cartoon like totally activated my pineal gland every freaking time I saw it. Can you download? That's so long ago.
I'm sure you can watch Super Dead on YouTube if you want to regale some of your youth.
Damn.
Anyway, yeah, they're all full of programming is the point, though. They're all based on the same loose idea. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions. I'm sure Danger Mouse and various other Jamie and the Magic Torch weren't based around interplanetary travel. But nevertheless, maybe they were. I don't know. But either way, there's going to be exceptions to every rule. But I can just remember the majority of stuff that I was being programmed with as a kid with cartoons, even as I look back on it now, had a lot of propaganda in it. Of course it did. Not necessarily because the people creating it knew it was propaganda. They were the same as us, right? So they just put it in because they'd been born and bred with it, and they had no idea that it was in any way propaganda. But it is.
Chocolate, don't
Even
worry.
to this day, like I'm still named Chocolate Saiyan. A Saiyan is a warrior ape that comes from another planet. And
Yeah.
Goku was the one sent here. You know, it's like
Hey, Chocolate.
I mean- yeah. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, Banana
Holy
Man.
shit.
Banana Man only appealed to a portion of the society,
Boom,
not
boom,
to all.
boom, boom.
Appeals.
Yeah, it's riddled. Pop culture's riddled with various types of indoctrination, be it for whatever the current religious rhetoric is, in this case heliocentrism. It doesn't matter. Oh, is that you, Arwin? Arwin, typing. Arwin,
Sorry. Yeah?
me typing.
Oh, you hear that? Okay, sorry.
I thought that was just pineal gland making noise.
It doesn't have cogs in it.
I just found the super
I've
teddy.
been asked. I had somebody ask me one time, "Well, how do you still call yourself Chocolate Saiyan if you're a flat earther?" I'm like, because I can distinguish between reality and a anime. Like it's not real, but you guys have this are under the assumption that this fantasy is your reality. I am
Yeah.
not. This
Simply
is just
recognizing
a
the
username.
recognizing the rhetoric for being a philosophy doesn't mean that suddenly we're like putting up crucifixes to the philosophy and going, we need to throw garlic at it. No, we just recognize that it's a philosophy. Now, the fact that the opposing side reifies that philosophy into their actual physical existence, well, that's their problem. But it's not a problem for us to recognize and sometimes even admire the heliocentric philosophy. It doesn't mean we're somehow scared of it or run away from it. That's you projecting what you do, like Arwin described when we went into Dr. Becky or whoever it was chat. You will all point at him and go, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. Right? Well, that's because you're scared of people who don't believe in your cult-like views when you reify philosophy. Well, we can understand, which we all now do, how the philosophy lays itself out, how it works, sometimes where it's good. But that doesn't mean that somehow we're scared of the philosophy or reify it as you do. It's just totally different scale. Nothing to fear of heliocentrism. The only people to be feared are the cult-like followers who reify it.
It's obvious for me because no one really who knows I'm a flat earther wants to talk about it. They're the ones afraid to talk about their supposed reality. I'm saying, bring it on. I've got some good arguments for your Narnia world. And they're just like, no, because we know what's going to happen. Well, they don't say it that way exactly, but they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, they might be forced into a position where they challenge their own beliefs in things rather than just getting on with their daily life without giving it any consideration. And the consideration is exactly why it's been engineered the way it has. Because if you give it consideration, you might give other things consideration that you're being lied to about. Now, that wouldn't be very good for people trying to keep control of you.
You remember the story when I walked in to see my friend at the restaurant? There was a guy there, and he recognized me. I recognized him, and sat down. And but prior to sitting down, he says, "You're the flat Earth guy, right?" And I said, "Yeah." So I sat down thinking that was an invitation to talk about it, but he didn't want to talk about it. But that's how he labeled me.
That was him judging you. Oh, you're that guy that doesn't believe that the floor is a ball that's going somewhere. You're that guy.
It works the
Yeah.
other way too, though. To be honest, because I know some people that know that I'm a flat earther, and they'll mention to me just like kind of like off the hand. They'll be like, "Hey, I heard something about Newton the other day," and then that will spark up a conversation because they knew that like gravity's a thing. And these are all topics, but it doesn't only be. It's not only a negative thing though.
Well,
Like
you
it can
transition.
increase people's minds. Yeah.
No, you found a good segue to transition to something where it's a little easier to talk about. Like for me, when the guy said you're a flat earther, I said, well, actually, that's the way we describe it, but it's really a plain and it's got hills and valleys. But water finds its level, right? You've been in the ocean. He goes, yeah. And I go, well, I used to have a boat. It's flat to me. How about you? And I stopped. He goes, yeah, it does look flat. And that was the end.
But that's the thing. He
See, me,
connected it
I
with
throw
you,
it right
so he's
back
not.
at them.
He's
I say,
familiar.
One sec,
I throw it back at them and say, "Oh, you're a flat earther." Me? What you mean me? So are you. There's no actual measured curvature anywhere, so we're all just flat earthers. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you can prove otherwise, I mean, you're in the same boat that I am. Because I look around, I even actually look around and say, where the hell do you see a globe? Where is that your reality? Where can you go to experience the globe? Nowhere. So you experience the same flat stationary plane that I do? Okay, great. So the difference between us is you believe a cool story and I do not. Okay.
Yeah, but I heard it on the radio.
Well, honestly, everybody in
Yeah,
reality that actually talks about flat Earth, if you tell them you're a flat earther, nobody in reality is actually going to be mad. They'll either think it's kind of funny or like quirky or interesting. But I've never really, only on the
I've
internet do you
had
ever hear
somebody
people
walk
get
away
really
from me.
toxic and messed up about it.
I've had somebody walk away from me, literally put their fingers in their ears, said, la, 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 I cannot have this conversation. That legit
Well,
happened to me in real life. One of my coworkers, who to this day, this was like a year and a half ago, to this day does not, even if the conversation is happening, he'll come into the section, he'll turn around and leave. He wants nothing to do with it.
well, he sounds like
Where
a
there
dork,
are other
to be
coworkers
honest.
of mine that are like, yeah, seems flat. Everything you say checks out.
Yeah.
And it's driving the ones that can't stand it, it's driving them nuts. And I love it. I've had my entire department arguing. And I sat down quietly with Tom. I started a whole argument. The entire floor was yelling at each other about it, and I sat down quiet, just like, wow, what the hell did I do here?
That's awesome.
It's great.
I just visualized that whole thing. Chocolate comes in, starts a conversation with 2 or 3 people. He goes, sits down, starts working, and turns around. And there's 50 people arguing.
That's exactly what happened.
My work here is done.
Yep. Everybody's talking about it. It's beautiful.
Supervisor comes in and says, what's going on? And they all point their finger at you. It's that guy's fault. He says, no, he's sitting there working. It's you guys. What's going on?
I left
The
the
supervisor's
Turns out the Earth
hilarious,
is
right?
flat,
Because he
boss.
wouldn't even approach me on it. So one of my coworkers told me. So my supervisor walks up to him the other day. He's like, little does he know that there's like a building you can go to, and you could watch the sunset. You could watch the sun set twice if you go to the roof of the building. That was his argument of why we know it's a globe. But he didn't tell me that. He told a coworker of mine. He won't get into that with me. But he told my coworker very nonchalant, yeah, he doesn't even know. He must not know that there's like a building. I guess he was talking about was the Burj Khalifa, whatever that building is, where you can go up to the roof and watch the sunset again. So apparently people think that that's a proof that we live on a magical spinning ball.
That's a nice proof of perspective, though.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right, angular resolution. There you go.
Yep, but they
Hey,
won't.
we got laptops. Got laptops.
They won't listen to that. What can you do?
Well, you said it best, Chocolate. Can you take me anywhere and show me the globe Earth? And the answer is still no.
Sorry to change the subject a little bit, but I've been recently watching a case that actually involves Elon Musk. So Johnny Depp and Amber Heard have been going at it in various different courts, including courts in the UK, which caught my attention. So I've been keeping up with it to a certain extent. Now, Elon Musk is apparently going to be deposed, and one of the videos that somebody released about that specific subject by that umbrella guy, all one word, shout out to you, my friend, for covering it so well. Underneath, I put, when he pointed out that he's going to have to be deposed about his claimed non-relationship with this defendant in this regard, my comment was, well, Elon Musk's always been a liar. Outer space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. The sky's not a vacuum. And first reply, immediately afterwards, was a guy saying, I hope you're just trolling and that you don't believe what you're saying. So that immediately got about 9 thumbs up as a reply. So obviously there's a fair few people clicking on it, not necessarily commenting, but giving this guy a thumbs up. How dare he believe that the sky can't be a vacuum? My response was, well, no, I'm not trolling. It's not my belief. It's the second law of thermodynamics. Look it up. My point is that immediately the reaction from somebody who wants to respond to that is to say, you're a believer in gas filling space. Natural law. You're a believer. Why? Well, because it contravenes my idea that the sky is a vacuum. Now, these are people in this particular biased channel. I'm not going to call him biased. That umbrella guy is very much in favour of Johnny Depp in this particular court case. Now, I don't care either way. It's just interesting to me. But nevertheless, his particular spin on it is that the people who are opposing Johnny Depp, which is in this case going to be Elon Musk, who's going to be deposed on the side of his opponent or Johnny Depp's opponent. That's people who are saying, God, yeah, I hope he gets proven a liar in this regard. Yeah? Elon Musk. I hope he gets shown to be a liar and having had a relationship with this Amber chick. Well, while that's salacious and newsworthy, because it's crass and lowbrow, it's more interesting to me that he might be shown to be a liar in that regard, but he's a liar. He's a flat-out liar. Credibility-wise, he's claiming to send rockets to a second law of thermodynamics violation. He's literally showing a man in a spacesuit, a fake dummy in a spacesuit, in one of his cars in space. The guy's an overt liar. But people in that comment section would rather trust him that he's sending rockets to space, while simultaneously saying, oh yeah, let's hope he gets shown to be a liar in terms of his deposition in regards to this very specific, very niche court case. Oh, but everything else he says about going to space and stuff, obviously I'm going to believe in that still, because that's part of my religion. So it's back to the commenter, it's back to that commenter, James Richard. You know, it's so much easier. I'll just read out his comment again. We have been lied to. I wonder why Globies cannot understand it is easier to fool a man than to convince them they have been fooled. Globies cannot tell that they have been fooled even after calling it out for 4 to 5 years. Now, in this instance, some narcissistic lying abuser who's deceiving the world is being called out for being a liar, but simultaneously the people who are calling him out for it want to defend him for his lies about a sky vacuum.
Even though the first quote that comes out of him after doing such a ridiculous thing is, you could tell it's real because it looks so fake.
Yeah, that's called duper's delight. That's called duper's delight. A narcissistic tell. Psychopathic tell. Tell them the reality of the situation, then laugh at them for it. You can tell it's real because it looks so fake. Just duper's delight.
Yeah, there are some people that can't even believe that that's... It's crazy because the people that want to call you crazy, right, or like us crazy, they don't even know half the things that they're supposed to believe. Like, you know how many people I've had to tell, like, you know there's supposed to be a car in space in your narrative, right? Like, they give me weird looks, like I'm making this up.
Yeah. I'm not. It's a bit like Coriolis, isn't it? Story. I've done that too, Chocolate. Yeah. You present somebody with the footage. I've done this several times. You go, check this out. You show them car in space. And they laugh and go, well, that's obviously fake. And you go, no. You then have to go into this weird scenario like with Coriolis effect, where you've got to tell them that that's claimed to be legitimate and convince them that it is legitimate. And there's normally a turning point where they actually realise that they're supposed to be accepting it as real, and they're not. So there's normally a turning point where they go, oh, well, yeah, Yeah, okay, it is in space. When they've just spent 10 minutes convincing you that it's not real and looks really fake.
Yep.
I've had people
love those
tell me,
type of people.
no, I'm going to debunk that. And I'm like,
Welcome to
you
Flat
remember
Earth.
the conversation about the where this thing is supposed to be is not real? It's already debunked. What I'm telling you is this is the story they're telling you. And he's like, nah, they're not telling us that. Bro, you can look it up on your own. He's like, no, I refuse to believe that. It's got to be like some type of like an advertisement or something. I'm like, holy shit. This is insane.
Yeah, sound familiar? Somebody telling you, no, I couldn't possibly accept that Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Why am I having to convince you that Earth should be turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour when it's a globe claim? Why? Well, because it's preposterous and it doesn't happen. So you, as the globe-believing claimant, have to be convinced of your own claim. It's so beautiful. Now we're getting to the end of the web of deceit. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I'll do one last shout out and thank you to anybody who supported me on the GoFundMe campaign. Perhaps nobody, but no, a massive shout out to all who have supported it up until now. I'll drop a quick link in the live stream chat if you did want to go and support my GoFundMe campaign. Once again, huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Quotes, and she was like, nah, this lady doesn't work for NASA. I said, just put it in Google. Just type in doctor just to put that little emphasis on. Type in Dr. Michelle Thaler. So she did it.
I typed in cousins of Michelle Thaler and I saw rocks.
You got rocks. So she does it, and you know, obviously her Google whatever pulls it up, and yeah, sure enough, she's a astrophysicist, works at NASA, all these, and she just looks at me like, but she just said, like, she's a complicated rock. Yeah, that's the point. Yes. Nah, I don't want to believe this. Oh, you don't want to believe that now? Interesting.
Yeah, you
Same
better.
thing with Don Pettit.
Oh, that guy's classic, isn't he?
Oh my God! Especially with the coffee, and you know, you chug a chug, and you make coffee. You go to the toilet, you make yourself a cup of coffee. I ran around my job like a maniac with that. Like, look, guys, they're making coffee out of dookie. You guys accept this? Is this cool?
How about the telemetry one?
Oh my God! Well, with the
We
destroy the technology. With going
Yeah.
back to the moon. Oh, I go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but unfortunately, we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to bring it back. And they just look at me like, does he work for NASA? I was like, what does it say under his name, man? I mean, come on. You think I think this guy is smart? But the point is, you're supposed to think this guy is smart because it says works for NASA. This guy was in the International Space Station talking about, oh, if you got a leak, well, I guess you got a leak.
Do you remember? Do you remember the one where he's with the other astronaut, Mastronomy, or starts with M? He's Italian, I think.
And then you see stars.
Yeah, and he goes.
You see the zodiacal lights.
He goes. The best part of that was when the other guy's talking and he should just shut up, but he doesn't shut up. Pettit, that is. And Pettit's going, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go, what is going on
It
here?
was like an Abbott and Costello like skit or something. Like I was like, what is this?
A quick hello to Adam. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon,
What's up,
guys.
Adam?
Good to have
Hey,
you.
Adam.
Been one of those days trying to get in for an hour, but
Oh damn.
my work keeps cropping up, trying to distract from me joining the flat Earth debates. How shocking!
Outrageous.
Tell them this is the real work.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
but
the
in all
old and
seriousness-
busted work. This is the new hotness work.
This is the new hotness.
Never let flat Earth debate distract you from putting food on your channel. I mean, on your table.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yo, Eli, what up, bro?
Sounds like I missed a riveting conversation. I just got in only 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, just me, just us laughing at the globe again.
It was typically a conversation that would have invited baller interjection because we were talking about Matrix and cartoons, and you'd have thought that would have drummed up some baller participation, but no.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to work anymore. It kind of sucks.
They know the
Maybe they've
ploy.
really given up.
Don't know. No one wants to take a tongue lashing for their fundamentalist belief.
Well, the ball is dead. So when they come here and they start with a begging the question fallacy, they can't get even an inch in their argument because that's how they all start. So they go to other shows where they can start with a begging the question fallacy and get maybe a mile. But they can't get a mile here because they got to start off in the debate with truth, not falsehood, not reification.
Ask you a quick question, Adam.
Yeah, far away, mate.
Going to shock. What chemicals released?
Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm pulling this out my arse. Well, adrenaline's going to be one, isn't it? I don't know. I'll have to look it up. If there's a specific neurotransmitter, I assume you're relating to. You mean relating to mental state?
Yeah. So I cut my
look.
finger yesterday, and it was quite deep and extremely painful. So I went and woke my wife up, and I could feel it creeping over me. And I've never taken heroin, but I can only imagine that was what heroin was taking like. So from the most excruciating pain I've ever felt to a really nice euphoric feeling, and then waking up a couple of minutes later on the floor going, wow, that was fantastic.
Nothing like it.
I'd just be intrigued to know what
Neurogenic shock
chemicals.
is a disruptive type of shock resulting in low blood pressure, occasionally with a slowed heart rate, that is attributed to the disruption of the autonomic pathways within the spinal cord. It can occur after damage to the CNS or traumatic brain injury. Low blood pressure occurs due to decreased systemic vascular resistance as a result of sympathetic tone, or lack of, which causes pools of blood. So it's saying it there. Neurogenic shock is related to a blood pressure system, so that's why you'd go all woozy and lightheaded and causing some hypoxia.
Yeah.
Listen, drugstore
Lucy said.
cowboy, and that train spotting, they hit it right in the head. Why do you think people remain heroin addicts? Because it feels unbelievably great, but then after that, nobody wants to go through the withdrawal pain. That's why people remain hooked on heroin. It's terrible. It actually is very terrible. And I know I'm talking from experience.
We used
Fair
to
enough.
do a little, but a little wouldn't do, and then a little got more and more. Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's where that Guns N' Roses pop from. Sorry about that, but yeah.
That's all right.
that's all right, man.
Mr. Brownstone's got a great guitar
I'm just
solo.
like, wait, hold on.
I love
Hey,
Guns N'
Nathan,
Roses.
Nathan,
But those movies hit it on the head, and it's sad because they need to do something where people can get over the fear of something. They got to be able. Come on, they're sending spaceships to the moon. They can't come up with something where heroin addicts could ease off it and be fine.
I don't
Nathan,
know.
I put a meme in Master B that talks about dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Maybe get Adam to give his view on it.
see that in Skype?
Norepinephrine, that's just Suboxone. I know what that is.
Okay, fascinating. Let's have a look at this.
Norepinephrine is Americanism for noradrenaline. So epinephrine, adrenaline are US and UK equivalent terms.
Oh, I thought he said buprenorphine.
Buprenorphine. Well, buprenorphine is
that's Suboxone.
Yeah, so Subutex it's called in the UK, and it's a kind of
Yeah.
opiate blocking agent, but it does give some symptomatic relief for withdrawal symptoms.
Absolutely.
Also blocks to prevent any illicit opiate use unrewarding.
And if you make the mistake of doing it, you're going to intensive withdrawals where you wind up in the freaking hospital.
Yeah, it can be very discomforting for some. Everybody's response on that is that, but basically, yeah, it makes it. If you do lapse, as long as you've got up in the morning and had the willpower to take your buprenorphine, then that helps.
Reminds me of a Jimmy Carr joke. It says the drug problem in Glasgow is so problematic that they no longer call methadone. They call it, I can't believe it's not heroin.
I can't believe it's not.
Well, methadone was a Hitler drug. In the word methadone is method, one, and man. And it's the number one method of controlling man.
Methadone's a vile drug. The kind of principle behind its use is
but it's dolphin.
Well, it's very outdated in today's world because the rationale historically for using it was to take the standard opiate addict and re-addict them to something more addictive and something that's more potent and makes the heroin again less rewarding. You need massive doses to be equivalent. The methadone's a lot more addictive. Now, what we're doing there, when we say physician do no harm, we're making them more addicted to another drug. That's the
but it's dolphin. No, that's what I'm getting at.
The
original one is dolphin. They're little dolphin pills.
Dolphin. That'll be a brand name again. So I bet they're just probably 5-septone tablets, so methadone tablets. I would assume.
It's dolphin. DAL. I forgot how to spell it, but I know a guy used to have it. But the crazy thing is, there was a guy and he had one leg. You know why he had one leg? Because when methadone first came out, he took it, he fell asleep, and he nodded out, and his leg was against the radiator. And he freaking woke up, his leg was melted. I mean, they had so many lawsuits against them, the FDA. Because I know my grandmother had 2 sons that were hooked on heroin, and she would call them up and say, this can't be better. My son's in the living room licking his socks. He left and he was fine.
Dollarphine, which again is a brand name for methadone, yeah. But it's a synthetic opiate.
Sounds like Hitler. Adolf, hey Dolphin, we will control the world and conquer it.
Well, it does give the state control, doesn't it? Because it means the addict is dependent upon the state for, in most cases, the obtainers of the meds.
It's the state keeping track of their drug addicts. That's all it is. You know that.
Yeah. And then people then get lost in the system where they just keep receiving methadone, don't you? As opposed to help.
Crazy stuff.
Depressing stuff I deal with all day long. So
I'm glad I brought it up. All I did was cut my finger.
Well, I put that up because I did a lot of study on the chemicals that the body releases, especially when you're doing intensive sports. And that's why I put that up. I want to add him to, I don't know if he's done talking about it. But it's the natural chemicals that the body has for us.
Yeah, and it's those opiates that are acting on those natural receptors. An opiate molecule has its natural equivalent. It's part of the way in which physiology works. in relation to pain, fight and flight, shocks, all those sort of things. But they're there for a specific purpose. Stimulation of them dampens down pain sensation. Really
yeah,
simply.
incredibly well. That was why I asked, because as much as I've had cuts and scrapes and injured myself, that's the first time it's been so easily describable, from instantaneous massive amounts of pain to what can only be described as euphoria. There's no other word to describe it. And you think,
I missed a part of your story. What happened? You hit yourself?
I just cut myself. So I had a couple of slices of bread and then turned the loaf onto its end to cut the last piece, and I wasn't using a bread knife, so it just slipped and went through my finger, and instantly I hit the bone, and as soon as you do, it fucking hurts. There's no other way of describing it. You know it's really painful. So I just ran it under the tap, ran into my wife with it spurting blood everywhere, and as it's happening, I'm like, oh, I can feel it creeping on. Oh dear. So I'm trying to explain this to my wife, but I'm losing speech and things while I'm trying to explain to my wife, yeah, I'm probably going to pass out soon.
Snap, Nate. Exactly this.
Yeah, that's happened to me before.
I had my knee
out.
Oh, go on, Adam.
I didn't see any of it, but it's exactly the same sensations. So a few days later, this is why I did pharmacy and not medicine, because I'm a pussy with blood. So I'm taking the bandages off, and exact same thing. I know something's happening. Things are getting dizzy, giddy. I'm starting to feel a little nauseous, and I'm saying to my wife, I'm sweating profusely. I'm going to think, I'm going to pass out. And she's not paying any attention to me. She thinks I'm faking it. No, Fred, listen, I'm about to go, buff. And then I went and passed out, and then woke up, a few minutes later. And like you say, with a level of mild euphoria, that's probably the best way of describing it.
It was. I could describe it more because I knew that I had to get something done. I had to get someone to bandage my finger, at main because I was more concerned about the carpet covered in blood, because I'm a bit fussy like that. But I've had it before, so I've probably told this story before. But when I first moved in here, I cut through my wrist when I was cutting a bath panel to fit it in. So I'm holding the bath panel, shaving it off with a Stanley knife. All sounds very safe, and then slipped and went through my wrist. Now this was on Christmas.
No more knives for you, Nathan.
Anyway, this was on Christmas Eve, and I lived here alone at the time, so I had to, hold on to my wrist while it's literally founting blood everywhere, and phone for an ambulance while I'm holding on to my wrist. And for that reason, I sort of prevented myself from passing out. I knew I'd have to let them in, and so on and so forth. So I intentionally, fought it off to keep myself conscious. Whereas, because having experienced that before, I was mildly aware of what was going on when it was happening. So I'm like, oh, this is creeping up on me, and I'm like, because I know my wife's got it in hand. Then I don't live on my own. If it is if it's serious, she'll sort it out, right? I've got a wife. So from that perspective, I'm like, I know she's going to sort this out, and I know that this feeling's creeping up on me exactly as you just described. You start sweating. And at that time, I've got to point out that you're still in excruciating pain, by the way, so it's not like it's worth it. Anyway, in case anyone wondered why that mild segue onto dopamine and norepinephrine and serotonin, and that's why we segued onto that, because I cut my finger. Nothing too exciting. In the morning when I woke up, my wife was like, you just wanted to be like Johnny Depp. Because in that Johnny Depp thing I mentioned, one of the things that is alleged to have happened was she threw a vodka bottle at him and took off, and I'm not even joking, took off one of his fingers when it hit a bar. So he's leant up against the bar, and according to the story that's told...
Get the heck out of here.
I'm not even joking. She threw a vodka bottle, allegedly, threw a bottle at him. Although she has actually admitted that, throwing one bottle. But the second bottle that she threw hit the bar, which was made of marble, and his hand was on it when it struck it, and it took the tip of his finger off. There's all these pictures of him bandaged up and stuff with his tip of his finger missing. So they had to go hunting for this fingertip so it could be sewn back on.
So she threw vodka because it was the best shot?
Boom!
Boom, boom.
And then Johnny goes, not the rum.
Not the rum, not the...
But why is the rum gone?
Nathan, you would have been good in the flooring industry. That's the first thing they tell you if you get cut. Don't bleed on the floor. Don't bleed on the material.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. When I woke up this morning, I'm like, oh God, there's a right mess. Even though I'm in pain, my first concern is, what a mess. I'm going to have to sort that out.
and then that poor baller came on the show.
Oh, yeah. Adam, I've got this blistering pain in my hand and sit down to the show, and I'm contemplating whether or not to do the show or not because I'm still feeling a bit woozy. But I thought, no, I'll power on, I'll be all right. Immediately, a fundy starts asking questions about how the stars would rotate the other way on a presupposed hemisphere. And I'm like, oh, God. It's not how I want to start my time on this show. It's normally a warm-up in the pre-show rather than telling a fundy that begging the question's not tolerated here.
Nathan went off so quick. I'm going, wow, what's up with Nathan? He didn't even give the guy a chance to even really get deep in his argument yet. Nathan's just
that's not true. That's not true at all. Actually, you and he went back and forth once or twice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But I mean, afterwards, it was like, I know your show, obviously, and I know when you want to use a moment to show the difference between the flat earther and the baller, because they come in here thinking we don't know anything, and so I know what you're doing from a point of that. But today you kind of started earlier than normal, so I was like, that's what I was coming at.
Yeah.
Well, he apologized in Discord chat after the fact because he knew enough to know that he didn't even really know what his claim was, but he found out real quick that he needs to have an argument before he just starts kind of accusing people of not knowing things, and then he found himself in deep, and then they found Nathan in a bad mood already.
Did this happen today? This morning?
Yeah, he went as Chocolate. Basically, 10th's opinion. I'm addressing this to you, Chocolates, because I want your opinion afterwards. Was that he's not a trench level baller because he didn't really know the score and seemed very, very naive. And my argument was, so in a reality of an actual trench, when someone wanders into the trench and are clearly on the opposing side, does that matter? They're in the trench, right? They're here. Does it matter that they've accidentally stumbled upon it?
They're in the firing line.
No, doesn't matter. You should have known which bar you walked into when you pushed those doors open.
Yeah, I like the bar analogy. Because I get quite a lot of fundies saying, why don't you come and debate me here? Or why don't you come and debate me on this so-called neutral platform? Why won't you meet me behind the bike sheds? It's like, because they don't want to. Got absolutely no desire. There's nothing in it for me whatsoever. But you want me, though, don't you? What's actually happening when that happens is their desire is in my direction. It's like there's even a Red's Rhetoric website published about how long it's been since I've not succumbed to his desires in my direction. You sad tossers.
Yeah, because they're in the bar across the street that nobody's going to. Nobody really likes. But they keep wondering what's going on in this bar. Meanwhile, we've got these little, wooden doors that you could just push open and just walk into the bar. But know the bar that you're walking into before you do that. That's all. And I'm sure not everybody will know and understand, but you're going to learn today.
That's what I said to him. Yeah, you might not be over and well clued up with your argument or have ever even looked at what the stars do to know which direction they're travelling. So what? You'll find out quick when you get here.
You got to come to the show to figure out which way the stars are going. That's classic.
He literally did that. You asked him, he said, which direction does the sun rise? And he got really confused, which was a cue to me. He didn't know what he was doing.
Most of us are fascinated with this stuff. We detailed earlier Chocolate and I on aeroplanes. Well, I used to be fascinated with my telescope. But the assumption is that you haven't got the vaguest clue when in reality it's projection. Half of their side haven't ever glanced up at the sky. Yet they want to tell us about how the world works based on what they've been told by their religious priesthood. It's like, you've never even looked at it.
They have a false sense of confidence, and then you come in here and then you realize they're out of their depth because they've never even asked the questions that we're asking. They've never even thought about a response to them. So,
just for balance, because that's not what I've just said is strictly not true. Because I remember early days coming to people with P900s looking at Venus and describing it, and I'm looking at it going, that ain't what it looks like in my telescope. It just looks like it's out of focus.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a danger when people come to the subject and they haven't been curious up until that point, or done any research into the philosophy that they're challenging at that point. They've just got your average Joe's general misconceptions about how the heliocentric model works, and then they stumble across flat Earth. Now, that's a dangerous combination, regardless of which side of the fence you fall on once that happens. Because if you fall on the globe side, you're going to be like the guy in the pre-show. You're going to get annihilated. And if you fall on the flat Earth side, you're going to start talking nonsense when you get your P900 out and point it at the sky because you've never done it before.
Yeah. Because yeah, like if you do look at it, like just a telescope would say, okay, maybe you didn't know how to focus your P900. But that doesn't mean it's a pro argument for flat Earth. It just means that there's multiple different answers you could probably get.
People expressing their curiosity. Here's a light in the sky, isn't it curious? Well, yeah, it is curious, but not curious for the reasons you're giving, based on a malfunction in your camera or your use of it. You know, I'm seeing people after the fact on both sides saying, well, just slip a piece of paper in front of it and then remove it and it'll actually focus correctly. Or there's various tricks that you can do to stop that from happening. But that's being corrected for people who are publishing this stuff. And a couple of days ago, we were talking about the source of any material isn't the credibility of the material itself. In other words, seeing it on YouTube doesn't make it false. But seeing it on YouTube doesn't mean you shouldn't go away and research it for yourself or take it as read. Especially when you've got people who are already exposed as liars. Again, back to the beginning of the show.
Well, it does have, like, listen, those, I mean, for the longest time, those out of focus P900 shots of, like, Mars and Jupiter, those were actually really convincing. It maybe captured, like, the mysteriousness of flat Earth or whatever. But, like, that doesn't hold up. Like, you just have to take out a better camera or figure out how to use the one you have, because we don't have to answer for you not knowing how to work your camera at the end of the day.
Yeah, but what's it debunking? They're saying, look, it doesn't look like it's a physical item. It's like, well, okay, so if you can get it to look like it's a physical item, regardless of incorrect or correct focusing, suddenly it's a physical item. It's a complete non sequitur. So why debunk a non sequitur fallacy? Pointing at something in the sky.
And then suddenly that makes the floor a ball.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Which is more, it's the onus is on the person who's making those out of focus shots of the stars. Okay, well, have you tried it again differently? And are you going to die on that hill if you want to say it looks like this fuzzy little glowing image or whatever? There's just different things, but it doesn't mean this is flat Earth. This just means this guy figured out a camera or didn't.
Well, I mean, you got to start from somewhere, right? And I guess, that as an argument had to start at some point, and it's kind of like now that's just it's become a moot point. It's kind of like if a Glober comes in here and starts telling us about some boat disappearing, for some reason or another. Well, we're going to say, well, what the hell? You're talking about the horizon. That's an apparent position. What are you talking about? But 2-3 years ago, we might not have got it to that point where it's that quick of a death. We might have had to go into the nonsense of how much of this boat is missing and looking at the curve calculator and all that crap, So as much as I don't want to use the word, the argument has evolved significantly.
Right. And that's why I appreciate the curiosity of those original YouTubers that put out those blurry images, because it is a curiosity. It's just they need to keep going,
Oh yeah. I mean, though, it's not to knock the curiosity. It's I again, one of those people always fascinated with the sky as well. I had girlfriends that used to get mad at me. Stop telling me to look at the moon. It's like, what?
But like the public, like the mainstream public, they're so behind, because you just go into like a Facebook group and you're talking, and I'm thinking that everyone is like the people that are in the trenches, so to speak, but they're not, because when I tell them, oh, you think that boat is disappearing, but based on the radius and how far the horizon should be, that has nothing to do with what's going on with that boat. That boat should be completely gone. Like what the horizon should have been, the horizon should have hit miles ago. What's up with that? And then they're like, what are you talking about? What does the radius matter? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Average Joe, we're on the cutting edge. You're not wrong, and it's not unreasonable to expect Joe Fundy to be on the cutting edge also. But by the same token, don't be standing in front of the tip of the spear then. With that, I'm going to say, if you are... No, it's the end of the show. Thank you for watching. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.